Woman Tulsi Gabbard, Democrat from Hawaii and former vice chair of the DNC, is with us now from Washington. So too, Tima, the Congresswoman's guest at the President's address to Congress. She's also the aunt of Alan Kurdi, the little Syrian boy who became a symbol of the refugee crisis 2 years ago when his body was photographed washed up on a beach in Turkey. He drowned along with his mother and brother when their boat overturned trying to reach Europe. Thank you both for being with us. Congresswoman, first to you. The President only briefly talked about his plans to destroy ISIS, a plan which he says will rely on working with allies and friends in the Muslim world. That would seem to indicate a multilateral approach, which is very similar to the Obama administration, isn't it?
Well, thank you, John. You know, one thing that I had hoped President Trump would talk about was really a declaration to end of current U.S. policy, which has U.S. taxpayers paying for arms and money and other support for armed militants in Syria who are working directly with terrorist groups like al-Qaeda to overthrow the Syrian government. This is a policy of a counterproductive regime change war that has caused such devastation, tremendous loss of life and human suffering in Syria, this refugee crisis, and has actually worked to strengthen these terrorist groups like ISIS and al-Qaeda that we should be focusing all of our efforts working with partners to try to defeat.
Well, Mrs. Kurdi, we're about to hear from the President when he will issue a new travel ban. This time it's believed that refugees from Syria will not be automatically rejected. Even so, when the President's talking about wanting to work with Muslim allies and friendly Muslim nations around the world, what impact will this temporary travel ban have?
Honestly, it does hurt me a lot when I heard this about the indefinite ban for the Syrian refugees. All what I was thinking about my family and other Syrian people who lost their life trying to go somewhere safe. And, you know, to be honest, I am here. I was hoping to see President Trump to stop arming the terrorists, stop supporting regime change, and this policy who caused millions of the Syrian, my people, to flee their home. And no country wants them. So stop bombing their country, they don't come to yours.
And Congresswoman, with regards to the President's plan, you want him to stop arming the rebel groups within Syria. You think that is doing more harm than good, but it does seem that the recommendations coming from the Pentagon would see the Kurdish fighters inside Syria being armed, possibly even sending more U.S. troops there. If that happens, what exactly will be the consequences?
Well, first, it's important to make clear that there are two wars that we're waging right now in Syria. The first war is the war that I've spoken about. It's this counterproductive, illegal regime change war to overthrow the Syrian government, of which part of is that we are providing arms and support to militant groups that are directly working with al-Qaeda. This is what we should stop. The second war is the war to defeat terrorist groups like ISIS, like al-Qaeda, and this is the war where we are working with the Kurdish fighters on the ground who have proven to be the most effective fighting force against terrorist groups like al-Qaeda. We should continue that work, and we should continue to focus our resources on defeating these terrorist groups and working with partners to do so.
Mrs. Kurdi, you know, as somebody who is directly impacted, obviously, by the civil war in Syria, what do most people there want? Do they want the United States to continue to focus on regime change, or would they prefer more of a focus on ISIS? What's sort of the desire for the Syrian population at this point after such a long civil war?
You know, from my experience, when I was speaking to the Syrian people, the one I met, an example, in Turkey, in Kurdistan, those refugees, all what they want to go home. We are outside. If we don't talk to them personally, we don't know what's going on. I did talk to my people. I understand their language. They cried to me and they told me, we want to go home. We need the world leader to help us and stop arming those the jihadists in our country, and we want to just go home to rebuild our life.
Okay, with that, I think we'll leave it on that note. Thank you both for being with us, Tima Kurdi, as well as Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard.